not that we are deciding today whether to accept anything out of this petition. It's whether we consider this as part of the process, which I think everybody knew, but I just wanted to make sure. So let's keep going then. Sean, Landon, Josh Whaley, and Ashton Rutherford, if the three of you would come up. Oh, okay, I will.
I don't think
Thank you.
here.
In case anybody missed it, the snacks are available in the back.
What's left?
Okay, if you'll introduce yourself and go ahead.
In order. Go in order. Chair Wall, Director Colbert, members of the commission. My name is Sean Landon. I'm pleading with you to reject this petition. I own and operate the fishing vessel Intrepid and the Adventurous. Been doing this since my dad told me to figure out how to pay the bills during the spotted owl debacle, and he was a lawyer. So, a while. Most of the things have already been said, but you just keyed off on a really good point. It's not about the rules. You don't have to accept the rules. It's about, so why not just reject it? It's the same in theory. It stops the wolf at the door a little bit. It says, hey, we have a really good collaborative process. We use adaptive management. Justin's over there somewhere. Great. Call him, talk to him. Brittany, same. Great people. These are the people that need to be doing this stuff. This wonderful fleet back here of people. If these rules go in, like shortening the season, they can't just stop, right? We all have bills. We have boat payments. We have insurance. We have all these things. We have crews. I have nine solid living wage jobs that we supply. Like living wage. These people can't just stop. So then what? They have to go out in weather that they shouldn't be out in. They have to defer maintenance that also same catastrophic effect, right? The way these things are written is truly life and death. Like you're gonna put people out there in a position, and I'm sorry that you have the weight and the gravity of this on your shoulders. I really am, and I do appreciate all of it. You're wonderful. Very hard thing, but thank you so much. I appreciate you. Please deny this petition.
Thank you, Sean. Josh?
Chair Wall, Director Colbert, members of the commission. My name's Josh Whaley. I'm from Brookings. I'm a third-generation fisherman. My family has been fishing this coast for 60 years, and I represent the fishing vessel Miss Sarah, Miss Emily, and Prolific, two of those boats named after my sisters. I'm asking you to deny this petition and stand with our fleet and our coastal communities, and I have two specific asks. In September of 2024, I stood right in front of this commission, and we discussed our line marking initiative. I heard from several of you that we would pursue the incidental take permit and submit our conservation plan. And a year and a half later, we are no further along in that process. I urge you to submit that tomorrow. Number two, I just want to tell you a quick story. A few weeks ago on February 5th, I was fishing 20 miles offshore of Tillamook Head, and I came across a deceased whale, most likely struck by a container ship. I circled it, took photos, noticed that it was not entangled, but I was concerned that the narrative, should it travel towards the beach and catch actively fished gear in its drift, would be much different. I did call ODF&W to report this incident. I called staff. Staff said, we do not have a way of accepting such a report. We have nowhere to put it. We have nowhere to send it. We have no way to record it. At this moment, they offered me a hotline to call that the ODF&W staff has online. I called that hotline, offered my name, my position. They too said, we have no way to report such a thing offshore. They said, we do not report on anything that has not already hit the beach. I said, well, who do you suggest? They said, well, you should call the state. So I called them back, said, they asked, what did they say? I said, they told me to call you. He then gave me another hotline, which was on the, goes out on all of our coastal notices to fishermen. Called the hotline, the same individual answered and gave me the same answer. So the same individual was monitoring both hotlines. At this point, it came down to a personal relationship I have with my mother-in-law's best friend, who happens to be a volunteer with the Marine Mammal Institute. I called her. She took my information. She took my location. She asked for pictures. She asked where I was in relation to the beach. And at the end of that conversation, and after seeing the pictures herself, said, don't worry, I've got your back. I'll make sure this gets reported properly. This is not a system. This is a community in Oregon that is looking after each other. Thank you. And once again, I urge you to accept this or to deny this petition.
Thank you, Doug.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Ashton Ruford, and I'm here today not just as a commercial fisherman, but as a son and a soon-to-be father in the next generation of my family's indigenous crab business. In 1 week, I'll welcome my first child into this world. At the same time, I'm stepping into a role of a captain in a business my family has built through decades of hard work and sacrifice. This isn't just a job to us. It's our livelihood, and it's our identity, and it's our legacy. The petition before you regarding well entanglements and commercial Dungeness crab gear has the potential to change and possibly devastate the livelihood for many of us. This fishery is how we provide for our families. It's how we provide for it's how we pay our mortgages, support our communities, and pass down something meaningful to the next generation. We understand the importance of protecting whales. We share these waters. We care deeply about the ocean's health because our lives depend on it. We are not the enemy in this conversation. We are partners in it. The changes driven by this petition could put family operations like mine at risk. They could force young captains out before we've even had a chance to build what our parents, grandparents worked so hard to create. I ask that you deny this petition and continue working with the fishing community on science-based solutions that protect whales without destroying fishing families and our community. My child deserves the opportunity to choose this life one day like I did. Please don't take away from our future. And I want to add, if you look in the room, you see a lot of young people like myself. I'm 22 years old. I'm a third generation fisherman. You know, I don't want to lose that before I get the opportunity to give that to my kids. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The next three are Deianne Lindian and Cody Chase, Kelly Whetherford. And then the next three after that, just so you can be ready, Amy Sharp, Mike Pettis, and Tony Pettis. So Deianne, Cody, Kelly. And if you'll introduce yourselves and go right ahead.
I'll go first. Okay. Well, I took my notes and scribbled them all up to make them shorter so that the time would go short faster. So I appreciate your time, Chair Wall, Director Colbert, members of the commission. I also want to say I'm a Newport Port Commissioner, but I'm not here under that status today. I'm here as a multi-generational fishing family business owner. We have a family that represents vessels out of Newport. We're 3 generations, and we spent our life protecting, preserving, and making a way for our families. Today, I stand with my family and those in the room and ask you to reject the petition set before you in its entirety. It doesn't correlate with the work that has been done over the 43 years that me and my husband and our families have been in this industry. The work and the time and sacrifice that the fishermen make. They're not just fishermen on the ocean, but they also do science. We do science surveys with NOAA, our boat does, and we also do the family does different management issue. I mean, they deal with different management. So I just want to ask you to stand with us. I know that your guys's, I'm gonna go back to this really fast. I know that you guys' mission is to protect and preserve. That's exactly what our mission is here too. So we're on the same side, protecting and preserving. We have a lot at risk right now, and the petition has brought a lot of threat to this industry. So we stand and ask that you stand with us, that you would remember that we're real people with real jobs, that we have real lives, and that we are not just stewardess, but we feed the world. We make a difference. And we work within the communities and within the environment to do our best, the due diligence. So stand with us, I pray, that you guys would just hear us, realize that we too are doing the same mission that you're on, and that's to protect what we got. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee.
Hi, my name is Cody Chase. I have a 42-foot crab boat out of Newport, Oregon. And we also have a retail market there in Newport. And we employ 5 to 8 families throughout the entire crab season. Crabbing makes up for about 50% of our income throughout the year. This is the potential to destroy this fishery and hurt our coastal communities up and down the coast. Please deny this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Then could we have Amy Sharp, Mike Pettis, Tony Pettis, and after that, Claire Lynn, Jay Trost, and Bob Kemp. Go ahead. I don't think Amy Sharp is here, so I think, oh. She is here.
I guess I'll start. Director Colbert, Chair Wall, good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for your time. I know that you have a difficult job. Some of you will agree with me, some of you might not, but I appreciate that you are considering what I have to say irregardless. I know that my time is short, so I'm not going to spend it repeating what you've already heard. Instead, I want to introduce myself. My name is Tony Pettis. I'm a 3rd-generation commercial fisherman. I've been crabbing on the Oregon coast for more than 25 years. Statistically, I am exactly one person. I own 1 boat and I own 1 Oregon crab permit. I have 4 long-term employees that are raising families and supporting our coastal community just the same way I am. But there are more to people than statistics. I'm also a conservationist. I've donated many hundreds of hours of my life to conservation causes. Everything from local beach cleanups to pulling old barbed wire fences. For more than 20 years, I've been a chairperson for our local Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation chapter. We raise money to support landscape scale conservation projects that benefit every American. I take great pride in giving more than I take, and I want future generations to have at least as much opportunities as I have had. For that same reason, I have spent significant time in meetings with fisheries managers, scientists, and environmentalists, working together to improve our fisheries. Now, I didn't come here to tell you that I'm special. I actually came here to tell you that I'm not. When I look around the room, I see that I am merely one of many people that care deeply about our ocean, our fisheries, and our coastal communities. We all have stories bigger than statistics, and we have worked together to improve the crab fishery over time. We have already made significant changes to avoid entanglements with an increasing population of whales, and we have teams in place that are working towards more improvement in the future. All changes need to be made with full consideration to all available science and real-world experience. I am one of many, and I'm asking you to reject this petition because it would destroy hard-earned trust and derail a system that has allowed all stakeholders to work together for the good of an ecosystem and the good of an industry.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Sharp. I am a commercial fisherwoman. I'm also the president of Fish Her Columbia Pacific Community Alliance. The Oregon fishing communities that we are comprised of is Astoria, Warrenton, and Garibaldi. I'm here today to tell you that commercial fishing is how we practice our faith. It is our identity. It is our culture. It is how we provide for the health and welfare of our communities. It is how we monitor the health and welfare of our oceans. We are food harvesters operating without the protections of the Farm Bill Act. And we are making sure that we provide food security for our nation. The food that we're producing, this seafood, has a lower carbon footprint than chicken, pork, beef, cheese. So if environmentalism is in the heart of your decision, I implore you to recognize that we need to protect the commercial fishermen. We cannot overregulate us. We cannot minimize our time in the water. We have to protect us from these entities that profit from perpetuating environmental issues. And, you know, ship strikes are the #1 cause of whale deaths. How many whales are washing up into our crab gear that we're getting blamed for? And another thing, this pop-up gear, if it's lost out there, will interfere with us being able to conduct other fisheries like salmon trolling. That will become a hazard we can't see out there that will interfere with our gear. So this whole issue goes way beyond just protecting the whales. It affects so much more. And honestly, all of us are the true environmentalists. We are out there every single day. We care nothing more than the success and the health of this ocean, of our communities, of all of it. This gentleman right here even says he volunteers his time in the off season. Please protect us.
Chair Wall, Director Colbert, members of the commission. My name is Michael Pettis. I have fished Dungeness crab in Oregon for 48 years. My wife and I currently own 3 vessels that fish crab in Oregon. We have 12 employees who were paid a cumulative $1.3 million while employed on our boats in 2025. I feel it is important to remember that seafood products landed in Oregon ports produce new money that comes into Oregon. It's not money that has been traded between Oregonians. It is value that did not exist before being landed. It is also very important to remember the Dungeness crab fishery is very well managed and that whale populations have been steadily increasing. Giving in to these environmental groups will only embolden them to ask for more and more restrictions on the crab fishery until a $93.6 million new dollar fishery in 24 is unrecognizable and financially decimated. Instead, I think the state of Oregon should offer an improved derelict gear program where vessels notify the state when they are no longer crab fishing so that their lost pots can begin to be retrieved in season rather than waiting until the middle of August. A program where the state will be allowed to show the environmental groups how many pots have already been taken home by the time the whales are likely to be in the area. It is likely that well over half, maybe even 75% of the gear fished at the start of the season has been taken home by May 1st. This new derelict gear program would put a monetary bounty on every pot so that poor quality pots would also be brought to town instead of being left at sea because no one wanted them. A new derelict gear program would be a big help to fight whale entanglements. Give the environmental groups that instead of trashing our well-managed fishery. Please deny this petition. Thank you.
Keep going. We go to Claire, Lynn, Jay Trost, and Bob Kemp, and then it's Maurice Knott, Dylan Ford, and Charlie. I actually don't know the last name, but we'll come back to that. And we missed a county commissioner earlier, but I see he's here now from my county, so welcome. Claire? Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Claire Lynn. I'm a 7th-generation Oregonian and a proud logger's daughter. This is not my family's industry, but I do consider this to be my fight because we have seen this story before. You have heard all of the technical pushback today, so I'll just leave you with this. You have a real opportunity before you to stand with the men and women providing food for our state, our nation, and the world, not to mention a critical business and driver of our state's economy. And I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you here that our state is certainly struggling with business friendliness. When I us. When an entire industry says we can't afford this, I believe we have a responsibility to listen. Should you accept this petition, I would just ask, are you going to personally go to the legislature to ask for grant dollars to supplement the financial hits to this industry? Because I would sure expect that you would. Please don't make a decision of this magnitude out of fear. It is our Attorney General's job to defend our state agencies. Surely defending this industry, which is the backbone of our state, should be a worthy cause. I respectfully ask that you deny this petition. Thank you.
Commissioner Wall, Director Colbert. I am Jay Trost, Curry County Commissioner Chair, and I am thankful to be before you. And number one, I also want to thank you for taking the time to make this as important issue as it is and listen to everybody speak today. I know it is a lot, but I want to take also a moment to look at the gravity of the entire situation. It was just brought up kind of briefly. But what you have before you is a crossroads for the entire industry sitting behind us. And that crossroads does mirror the situation with the timber industry and the spotted owl. Should this commission decide to move forward with this petition, it will devastate everybody behind us. And on top of that, it's been said, you know, these folks behind us, they all have their boats on their shirts, their hats. That's their name badge. They don't get to take it off. They don't get to just put it away. They have to wear that on their hearts. It is their livelihood. But also, in addition to that, they are manufacturers of the ocean. And when you have a manufacturing position, you are creating 5 to 8 jobs in the community outside the industry in which you work in. These folks right here, they're talking about what they produce for their own families, but what they produce for their community is 5 to 8-fold, just like a timber job. They support every other job in our community, and our coastal communities need this to thrive. Now, I was having a discussion earlier today with a very experienced legislator, and I asked, what is one of the most important things that we can do as leaders in our community? His answer was simple. He said, build relationships. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And what I would ask is that when you weigh this out, you look at the relationship piece. Now, these guys behind us have created and forged incredible relationships with ODF&W to create best practices that are being experienced on our coast. That should be applauded, not questioned. So when you go forward and you talk about this in executive session, and you're going to have discussions about this, you're going to bring up legal issues. You're going to bring up legal costs. But what I would ask you to really weigh out is the value of those relationships going forward, because what you don't want is you don't want those to be broken, because these guys right here will step behind you the whole way forward. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Director, and Commissioners, good afternoon. I'm Bob Kemp, a Newport fisherman. My winter fishery is crabs. I'm no stranger to changes in this fishery and currently waiting to start on alternative gear method pilot projects near Newport. I'm here to address the petition on changes to timing, method, and location of harvest of the crab fishery. I am in agreement with the conservation communities of the need to reduce the effects of whale entanglement and the crab fishery. I would have hoped to have been able to ask to select or reject portions of this petition to you, but your charge is to deny as presented. So today my ask is to deny this request. Here's my reasoning in 3 points. The timeline request to implementation, the ropeless gear itself in its present generation, the redrawing of the late season boundary from 40 to 30 fathoms based on science. The time frame to implement these changes for ODF&W, the crab fleet, and enforcement of April 2028 to adapt, if accepted, seems like a tall order. The ropeless gear has been used in testing now going on 3 seasons in California and over a longer period of time in East Coast fisheries, the development stage pushing 20 years. I think 24 months is a big ask for Oregon. Current buoy configurations have been developed over many seasons in my area. Ropeless gear technology has the ability to eliminate entanglement issues. Adapting it to this crab fishery at any scale will take a large sheep from its present form. The 24-month request should disqualify this petition on its own standing. The late season boundary is 40 fathoms and shallower. The request to move it, the spring late season boundary into 30 fathoms based on science. I can't find that science. I fish the area and it's economically important to me. I request that you fact check this statement. My ask is to deny this petition and allow the ODF&W crab fleet and science partners to move forward working to develop whale entanglement reduction methods that are doable in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Maurice Scott, Dylan Ford, and I think the name is Charlie, but it's with the fishing vessel Kylie Lynn. Okay, thank you. And after that, the next three are Bruce Mckenry, Harlan Matthews, and Corey Rock.
Hey, my name's Dylan Ford. I have a 200 crab pot permit. It's a dory permit, so it only goes to 26 feet. It can't go any larger. I had fished on a 22-foot dory out of the Columbia, mainly in the river and on the mouth. Sounds a little crazy. It is. Might be slightly insane, I don't know. But I do it for my family. I have 4 children, a wife, and my kids love what I do. My kids love whales. My 11-year-old, she wants a survival suit for her birthday, Christmas. She's been asking for 2 years now. And because she wants to come out, she wants to go spring crabbing, summer crabbing. I crabbed all the way till August 10th last year. This is only my 2nd year doing it myself. I've been crabbing for 20 years. I ran a big boat for 2. And now I'm facing some financial, a wall with this petition coming up. I won't be able to do pop-up gear. I won't be able to long line. My boat's 22 feet. I trailer my boat to Hammond Marina every single morning. I wake up at 3 a.m. I fish about 160 pots. That's it. If I take a pot reduction through springtime and summer, I'm getting like half a crab a pot. I sell to Bell Buoy and Seaside. I trailer them to live markets in Portland. And if I'm not able to do that, then they're going to have to import crab from, Canada, other places, or they're not going to have it at all. Prices are going to go up. People are going to lose their jobs. It's very important for this petition to just kind of get squashed. I mean, all of you are very smart. I see it. You guys are very engaged, and we all appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we go to Bruce Mckenry, Harlan Matthews, Corey Rock, and after that, Kyle Rock, Pat Kavanaugh, and Orion Ashdown. And if you'll introduce yourself for the record, yeah.
My name is Bruce Mckenry. Thank you, commissioners, for hearing me today. My name is Bruce Mckenry. I'm a 2nd-generation fisherman. I've commercial fished my entire life. It's the only occupation I've ever known. Our boat is considered a small vessel at 36 foot and is not a suitable platform for pop-up gear. For larger vessels, this method of fishing will cause unnecessary and unimaginable burden. But for us and other vessels in our size range, it will be nothing short of a death sentence, making small boats obsolete in the crab industry. I'm asking you to please deny this petition.
Thank you. Kyle Rock, Pat Kavanaugh, Aaron Ashdown.
Hi, Chair Wall, rest of the commissioners, Director Colbert. My name's Aaron Ashdown. I'm a Port Commissioner for the Port of Port Orford. I guess I'm here on their behalf, but I'm also a second generation commercial fisherman. And I believe you've already received a letter from the port. And I guess there's a lot that's already been said. Want to kind of reiterate what the commissioner from Garibaldi stated just in regards to small communities and the disproportionate impact of any of these changes. You know, some things to be proud of on the South Coast, you know, Port Orford through NOAA data, you know, we're the fifth most effort in commercial fishing in Oregon. We do have a lot of live fish, rockfish, and other fisheries, but and we've also been recognized by NOAA in their national seafood strategy. So Port Orford is very innovative. You know, we've worked very hard through, you know, before I was even born to be innovative and adapt to changing, you know, circumstances, markets, climate. So I won't say any more. I just appreciate, you know, as a commissioner, to other commissioners, you know, what it takes to consider these decisions. And yeah, there is a lot of weight. So, and also I would invite you down to Port Orford and, you know, check out our operations down there. You know, we're pretty unique. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Aaron. Bill Hagerup, or Orion Ashdown, and Heather Mann, and then Carrie Johnson, William Thompson, and Scott Fosmark. Bill Hagerup, Orion Ashdown. Okay. And
I know you guys are.
there you go.
Thank you so much. My name is Orion Ashdown. I fish out of Port Orford, Oregon. I am in charge of 7 vessels and have almost 2,000 crab traps that are allocated to me. And it's a big responsibility. I had inherited from my father, and I believe it's a big deal. And we love crabbing out of Port Orford. We're small boats, and our community is very dependent on the fishing and our harbor. I would like to ask you to deny this, but I would also like to consider that we need to think about getting the incidental take permit as fast as possible. Whatever we could do to expedite that would help us as far as maybe liability and legality. I do believe we're making huge steps towards accountability for, you know, interactions. And I believe the fleet has tried and is trying to mitigate any encounters. I believe this year with all the traps, we, as far as I know, haven't tangled a whale this year with the traps in the water. So I think that's a good thing. And I do believe there needs to be change and some common ground to be had by all interest groups for everybody. And I would like to see it denied, but let us be able to have a chance to control our future and be, you know, keep this fishery alive for future generations. You know, there's the young fellow earlier who's having his child. It would be great for his child to have the same chance as his parents. And I think that's a huge thing. And Port Orford is a special, unique place for small boats. I don't know if this pop-up gear would work for our vessels. I don't think it will, but that's just my opinion. And I just think that it's important, and I respect all of you for making these tough decisions that are going to be made. And thank you so much.
You're
Heather, yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Heather Mann. I'm the director of the Midwater Trawlers Cooperative. We've got 30 vessels that I work for. Most of them are home ported in Oregon. Some of my vessels crab. We primarily trawl for groundfish and whiting. Even if I didn't have vessels that crabbed, I still would have taken the day to drive here from Newport and stand with the fishing community regarding this petition. I listened very carefully earlier about not suggesting intent upon others. I want to say that I've got 30 years experience in the federal arena here on the West Coast and in the North Pacific. And I can say from experience that litigation is part of the funding strategy of the petitioners. What you decide here today will not impact their jobs. It will impact our jobs. And I say our jobs because we're all connected. We are an ecosystem. We are together, whether you're a trawler, a crabber, a processor, a live fish buyer. We are the heartbeat. We're the engine, the economic engine of coastal communities. And that's really important. If nothing's going to change with rejecting or accepting the petition, then reject it. Be brave and reject it. There's no reason that you have to give these groups any more airtime. My kids were sponsored by fishing vessel Excalibur when they were playing Little League, not Oceana, not Center for Biological Diversity. And finally, I'd like to say that, as I said, I've been doing this for a long time. In the Pacific Council, people from Washington and California always say, you are so lucky that you're in Oregon. Your state cares, your department cares about you. They don't have that same luxury. If you don't reject the petition, that could change that sentiment. We really, really respectfully are asking you to reject this petition, keep supporting the collaborative work, support your department, which is doing amazing work, Justin and Troy and everybody. So please reject the petition.
Thank you, Heather. The next three are Carrie Johnson, William Thompson, and Scott Fosmain. And while they're coming up, the note that I just got a minute ago was
big announcement, guys.
Pizza in the back for anyone interested. So
Proxy.
the three after this panel would be Bob Eder, Henson, and Jim Long. So go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Wall and Director Colbert and members of the commission. My name is Carrie Johnson. I'm a fourth generation commercial fisherman out of.
Ignore that.
Commercial fisherman out of Astoria, Oregon. And we're able to continue in this industry. My 15-year-old son will be the fifth generation commercial fisherman out of Astoria. So we're very proud members of the commercial fishing community and would like to be able to continue in this industry that has sustained our family and provided life for us since we came to this country. I appreciate your time today, and I just want to say that I believe that we're a victim of the whale's success. Their numbers have been increasing greatly over time, and I think that we're being penalized for that. I want to ask that you reject this petition. I support much of what's already been said here today, especially the comments that were said by the Coastal Caucus and read by Representative Boyce. I really see an issue, this as an rural and urban divide, and we are seeing our community attacked by outside interests, oftentimes from outside of the state or urban areas, and we're already struggling as a small community to survive and have family wage jobs over there. So I don't like our number one export to be our kids. And I want to see us be able to continue to support our kids and our family and stay on the coast. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Fosmark. I have 2 crab boats that operate out of Oregon and Brookings. Fishing vessel Yas Neck and the Queen Corinne. I've been in this business for several generations as well. My dad, my uncles, my grandfather, great-grandpa, yada, yada. But my mother is Kathy Fosmark. She also served on the Pacific Fisheries Council before. And there is a mechanism for the crabbers and the whales to coexist. And I too want to echo the importance of getting that done, doing the research, putting your efforts into things that are going to be productive. 8% a year that's pretty impressive. I don't know if you guys look at your retirement accounts, but 8%, if I get 8% on an investment, that's pretty good. And over time, that's 8% a year compounded. So the stocks are rebuilding. Mother Nature's doing her job. The crabbers are doing their job, and we're trying to meet you guys in the middle. I just want to make one quick comment about the pop-up gear, and it's not often that we have this type of sample in the room, but I'd like to see a show of hands in the room of all the people that think that pop-up gear is a good idea and will work. How many people think pop-up gear is a bad idea? Just want to make a note for the record. I didn't see one hand vote for pop-up gear. It's got a lot of issues, a lot of wrinkles that need to get worked out. It's never been tested in Oregon. With the weather that we have up here in the dead of winter, you take something that's buoy and you throw it in the ocean, that pot is going to hop all over the place. And we have to mark our gear so we know how to pick up our pots. There's no buoy on the surface, okay? Visibility is an issue. That gear is going to have a tremendous problem. And I also have a shrimp boat too. So I don't want to be catching crab pots with my shrimp nets. So you got to think about the consequences in the other fisheries that are going to take place, because you're going to try to fix one problem, you're going to cause 3 more. I urge you guys to deny the petition. Continue the work that you're doing. Get it done quickly so we can move on. Thank you.
Bob Eder, Janet Henson, and Jim Long, and then Brett Greg, Max Sherman, and Jeff Mulkey. Go ahead.
I think you got my name wrong. It's Wilson Thompson.
Pardon me?
It's Wilson Thompson, not William Thompson.
Still not hearing what you said.
It's Wilson Thompson, not William.
Sorry. Go ahead. Introduce yourself and get it right, then I will stop.
So my name is Wilson Thompson. I'm from Port Orford. I own a 36-foot crab multi-fishing boat. Basically, this petition should not be approved in its current state. It's like, I agree with the science behind some of it, but there's a lot of science in there that's supposedly science. There's a lot of it's either out of date or assumed. Down in Port Orford, we've been a lot to do with research and development and helping with biological diversity and impact of fishing on fishing systems and how to develop good fishing systems to negate any destructive to habitat or other species. We're all for helping out. And me personally, I've helped ODFW out in surveys and catch analyses and gear. I'm one of the boats that actually testing out the logbook, electronic logbook, which I think is actually a good thing. It would actually help eliminate a lot of the derelict gear problem. And I think derelict gear problem is the #1 problem that is affecting the whales. For the simple fact that it's out there, it's lost, it's drifting. As for pop-up gear, it's not viable, especially on the South Coast, the way they want to implement it. And I've told ODFW, I was like, I will test it. I will help you test it. I can't afford to buy the gear. I have the crab pots, but I cannot afford another $20,000-$30,000 for their buoy system. But I'm more than willing to work with them and show them that it won't work in certain situations. It might work in other situations. So, thank you.
Thank you. And sorry for getting your name wrong.
Chair Wall, Director Colbert, Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Bob Eder, and I'm here to ask you to deny this petition. I'm a career crabber, a member of the Oregon Dungeness Crab Commission. I've served on the Tri-State Crab Steering Committee since its inception in 1989. The case for denial is being made by many today. I'm confining my remarks to one single point. The petition is unnecessary, not needed. The entanglement issue has been front and center at ODFW and has been for 8 years. The process requested by the petitioners is well underway and is being addressed in a sane and collaborative manner. Thousands of hours have been invested in developing a conservation plan, working toward an incidental take permit. Action is being taken to minimize overlap between whale presence and crab gear. We will be testing pop-up gear and long lines. We are dramatically improving the policing of derelict gear. Cooperation between ODF&W and the fleet is invaluable. Our own staff is doing the work. Accepting this petition will do nothing to augment that process. If anything, it will be a hindrance. It's unnecessary. There is no good reason to hand over the reins of this gem of a fishery to anyone but our own agency. No good reason to create stronger standing for these petitioners, no matter how well-intended they might be. We got this.
Thank you, Bob. Go ahead. Ed.
Madam Chair, Director, members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jim Long. I'm a third-generation crabber, commercial fisherman. I fish Washington and Oregon. I am an advisor on the Crab Advisory Board in the state of Washington. I'm a tri-state advisor along with Bob in Washington, Oregon, California. I am the chair for our local crab group at the river, Columbia River Crab Fishermen's Association, and I go to meetings all the time. I'd like to go to work. So what I'm asking is that you deny this petition so that my wife, my 4 daughters, and I, who own a 48-foot crab boat, can just go to work and fish. There have been many, many statements today, and from the Coastal Coalition letter, I submitted a letter on behalf of myself and behalf of the Crab Association at the river. Bob's statements, I mean, it goes on and on. We can keep repeating ourselves, but I think you understand how important this is to our industry. We ask that you look at the whole picture, understand that this group will stand behind you. We will protect what we have. We're just asking you to give us a chance, deny this petition, and let us keep working with the state, and we'll make the improvements we need to make. Echoing that we need your help in getting these take permits and things passed through to NOAA. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I think we have Brett Havra, Max Sherman, and Jeff Mulkey. And after that, we will have Seth Whitsitt, Joe Mulkey, and Brian Holm. Go ahead.
Hi, Chair. My name's Jeff Mulkey. I'm been crab fishing for over 50 years. I've built my own boat. Two of my sons are taking over the fishery. The thing that one thing I've talked to a lot of fuel companies, a lot of businesses in our community. That's what we got to think about too, just not us. We need to think about business, other businesses, Napa, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'll make it short. I want it to be denied. And I'm good with that.
Thank you, Jeff. Go ahead.
Chairman Wall, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm Max Sherman from Hebo, Oregon, and candidate for Oregon House District 32 on the North Oregon coast. I strongly urge the Fish and Wildlife Commission to reject this petition, seeking to change the existing rules governing Oregon's commercial Dungeness crab fisheries. The proposed changes are sweeping and permanent, and they would have devastating consequences for the economics of our coastal communities. Oregon's Dungeness crab fishery already operates under a science-based collaborative management system. It reflects a long-standing commitment to balance conservation with the economic vitality of our coastal communities. The industry has invested heavily in technology and techniques designed to reduce risk to western coast humpback whales. According to NOAA's own research, humpback whale populations have been growing for decades and show strong recovery trends. In 2022, NOAA denied a similar petition because the best available science shows whale populations were stable or increasing and that existing measures were not preventing recovery. This current petition lacks clear science-based evidence to demonstrate harm to whale populations. It would require costly equipment upgrades that many fishermen simply cannot afford, and some of which have not been proven to be impractical in Oregon's coastal waters. These mandates threaten to put hardworking fishing families out of business without clear conservation benefits. It's also important to note that this petition was filed by a California-based environmental organizations that do not share the same stake in Oregon's fisheries as our local communities. Oregon's fishing industry has long demonstrated that it is the best steward of our waters, committed to sustainable harvest, careful management, and responsible conservation. The Dungeness crab industry is Oregon's most valuable single-species commercial fishery and supports deckhands, processors, marine suppliers, small businesses, and entire coastal communities. It generates revenue that supports local services, schools, and ripple effects of this proposal would be severe. I stand with Oregon's fishing families and processors and respectfully urge you to reject this petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then could we have Seth Whitsitt, Joe Mulkey? And I'm stalling to see how many people are coming up because we have two people left. Also Natasha Novikova and Brian Holm. Okay. Joe, go ahead. Is Brian here? Oh, you're reading. Okay, go ahead. And Natasha Novikova, do you want to come up at the same time and these three people will conclude our testimony. So go ahead.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you for hearing us today. My name is Joe Mulkey. I'm the Fishing Vessel Pacific Challenger. One thing, first off, I agree with most of what's been said today. I think there's been a lot of good said. What I'd like to kind of touch on is kind of more of like the trickle down effect. I think one of the easiest arguments when our potential crab season is potentially taken away, at least parts of it, is that you guys can go do other fisheries. And at least like in our little port of Winchester Bay, our buyer there, they are there because of the crab. And because they have come there because of the crab, they've decided to support us in all of our fisheries. But crab is the backbone of our little town. And if that goes away, there's no reason for them to be there for the other fisheries that are much smaller. And I think the other thing that needs to be taken into consideration for those of us that have boats that potentially can travel and move to other fisheries is you're going to see a lot more effort put on fisheries up and down the coast, whether that's some of us would probably go to California squid fishing, or some of us would have to go to Alaska or whatnot. And there's, it becomes a lot bigger picture than just less crabbing going on. So I would ask for you to deny this petition. Thank you.
Mike, do you want to
Yeah, I can go, I guess.
go ahead, Brian?
Yep. So I'm Mike Harrington, and I'm going to be reading these comments into the record for Brian Holm. And it says, I guess for the record, this is for Brian Holm. Dear Chair Wall, Director Colbert, and members of the commission, Brian is here in strong opposition to accepting the current petition regarding whale entanglement advanced by the Center for Biological Diversity and others. Accepting this petition, even if framed as a procedural step, risks being interpreted as an admission that the department has failed in its duties. This is not a small matter. It would set a legal precedent that petitioners will be more than willing to leverage in federal court. Federal judges are not trained biologists. They are trained in law. In cases involving complex fishery management, courts often look to whether a science-based agency stood by its conclusions. If this commission signals doubt in its own process by accepting a petition that is unnecessary, it weakens the department's position and invites judicial second-guessing. Rulemaking on this issue is already underway. The commission and staff are actively engaged in evaluating data, risk, and management options through the proper regulatory process. There is zero need to accept a duplicative petition to address matters that are already being handled through established channels. Please do not fall into the trap of believing you are only accepting the petition and not the substance within it. The legal and political implications will not be interpreted that narrowly. Acceptance will not be portrayed as validation of the claims against the department. But EFW's strength lies in its credibility as a non-biased, science-driven agency. Preserving that credibility is critical, not only for this issue, but for every management decision that may one day be scrutinized in court. Brian respectfully urges you to deny the petition and allow the ongoing rulemaking process to continue without unnecessary complication. Thank you for your time and careful consideration.
Thank you. We'll hear from Natasha, and then there was one other person who apparently had signed up and I missed it somehow, but it's Fern. So we'll have one more person after this panel. So go ahead, Natasha.
Dear members of the commission, thank you so much for giving the opportunity to speak today. My name is Natasha Novikova. I'm the founder and president of the company named 4C Solutions based here in Portland, Oregon. And I've been working with the Oregon Dungeness Crab Commission and the fleet for the past 7 years, trying to actually help the fishery regain the MSC certification recognition, which is a globally recognized ecological certification standard that works for many, many different countries, many regions, and takes the local, national, geographic, all the cultural and traditional fishing practices into consideration. I'm not going to repeat what I also submitted my public comments during this period, so I'm not going to repeat many things have been already said, and I concur with those. I just want to say that we've been also working not just obviously with Oregon Dungeness Crab Commission, but with Department of Fish and Wildlife and submitting public progress reports on the publicly available website, fisheryprogress.org. The fishery improvement project that we've been working so that we can actually regain the MSC certification is a public tool available for everyone to look through and also comment if anything needs addressing issues. And we've been really successful to do that. And we're very close to get into potentially, again, into MSC certification recognition. As I already said, that ODCC have been working actively on the FIP, Fishery Improvement Project, to move the fishery towards the recertification against MSC standard. The course that has been already taken by all the stakeholders in this fishery should remain. And I also urge you as an independent technical consultant to deny this petition. And I thank you for your time. And I also thank every single person in this room. The fishermen here are definitely the backbone of this fishery, but also global seafood community. Thank you.
Chair and commissioners, thanks for getting me up here. Been around a long time, represent fishing vessel Last Straw out of Newport, Oregon. Everything's been covered here tonight. I heard the petitioner's side, and I've heard everything else has been covered. So I'm asking you to deny this petition. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you who came and did the testimony. And in the past myself, it's not easy to get ready or to come here or to do these sorts of things. So thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break and then we're going to come back and the commissioners will have the chance to ask staff questions and have a follow-up discussion. And then we'll move to our decision after that. So 5-minute break and then we're going to have questions. staff as follow-up to everything that we have already heard. Then we'll have a general sense of the commission, and then we will try to move to a decision today on whether to accept or deny the petition. So commissioners, now's your chance to ask questions of staff. Anybody want to go first? Or not?
Well, I have a number of questions, but I guess one question I wanted to ask has to do, a couple of the commenters talked about the cost, well, many of you did, talked about the cost of moving to other gear. And I'm wondering what discussions there have been to try and provide, as some have suggested, the financial incentives or other support if gear was to need to be changed to help through that process and not put the burden of that on the folks in this room.
Good question.
Chair Wall, Chair Morrison, at this point, our plans, as I did mention in a presentation, was that there's a lot for us to learn about alternative gear like pop-up and long-line gear, just how it could be used, how to avoid conflicts, how it can be enforced. And a big part of that unknown is what it would cost to the fleet. And so we haven't, as in preparation for this petition, we didn't go into very specific analysis on the measures in the petition, whether they be the late season reductions or the proposed rules around alternative gears. We didn't do a thorough analysis like we would in any rulemaking that we bring to this commission. So that being said, there is some information that we learned as the department helped put together a pop-up gear workshop last fall. And some of the manufacturers joined us in a story with a number of fishermen, including some of the fishermen here today. And some of the advocates that did sign on to the petition too, they were part of that workshop as well too. And we learned a lot about some of the costs, and it really kind of depends on how, if we were to proceed with the fishery authorizing the gear, it depends on if longline were part of that, but you know, what we'd like to propose in August, come back to this commission, is a experimental testing permit program, so that participants that want to volunteer for that program and could we'll have some sideboards about how many how many pots we think at this point that long lining would be part of that. So a pop-up gear system with a string of pots, and so you'd have one pop-up release mechanism for a string of pots. And so depending on the number of those, that's where costs start, going up. So in terms of just ballpark, for one of the release mechanisms, I think $1,700 to $2,000 a piece. And then there's a deck unit that could be around similar costs. So it's, from what's working in what is used in California right now, strings of up to 50 pots could be strung together. I don't know if all fishermen are using full 50 pots per string, but each one of those strings would have one release mechanism and then, one deck unit to release. So cost might multiply up from there. And so that's just preliminary data we have on that.
Do you have another question?
Well, just a follow-up.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
just to clarify, if and when there was a move to other gear, we're not ready yet to have that conversation about how that might be funded, again, other than on the backs of the people that are in this room.
Right, that's a big question mark right now. We know that the regulations, just speaking in general, over the past several years that we have put in place, this commission has put in place to address marine life entanglement, have come at a cost, and fishermen have had to bear those costs. And I would hope that if we were to move forward in the future with some, requirements for pop-up gear, that there could be some way to help with that financial burden.
And if I might add, Chair Wong and Commissioner Morrison, I think the long story short on that is we come in August with rules to make that experimental fishery a possibility. And then with what we learn in that experimental fishery, we would be able to answer that question a little bit more clearly.
Thank you both.
I'm going to come to the other two commissioners who have their tags up in just a second. I have a follow-up to this, though, and it's specific, if you will, to Port Orford, because that's the one that's living, that's where I know the most about it. And it is a question, I'm going to come back to this one on the pots and the small vessels. But what about the piece of near, where people are near the beach and there were a couple comments and several comments in the written comments about it may not be safe, or it may be a different kind of situation than in the Columbia River or along the other parts of the ocean.
Chair Wall.
I have another
Sure.
question, but this one first.
Those concerns we heard today were also some concerns we heard at the workshop that we held in last fall, that we just haven't had that kind of testing, and we don't know how it would work. You know, the Oregon coast is a dynamic place, and fishermen often have pots that get sanded in, and they have to have special equipment to get them out of the sand. And so the concerns that I heard from fishermen, or that pop-up gear, if that were sanded in, we just don't know if that would work in that dynamic environment. And then especially, as we also heard, around the river too, lots of silt coming out there, there's strong currents everywhere along the coast, and in some areas more than others. I think that was, and again, that highlights for me why we need to test before we would approve any large-scale fishery with pop-up gear.
And my next one is related to that too, and it goes back to the question about the small, especially the small boats, because Port Orford happens to be it's all small vessels as far as I know. I've not seen the bigger ones except offshore ways. And I'm sure not looking for a hall pass for Port Orford, but what about the small vessels? Is it from what you have seen, is it that different? Because we heard from people in the Columbia and here in Port Orford, and all that Port Orford has already done with Marine Reserve and that sort of thing, but now this issue, but especially the small, that it's an entirely small vessel fleet.
Chair Wall, that is a very big concern, how small vessels would operate with pop-up gear, especially if it only makes, if it could only work with the long line, so stringing a number of pots together. Yes, Port Orford has small boats, but I think there are even smaller boats that operate, say, out of Pacific City, or some of these dory fishermen that we heard from today. A 22-foot boat may not be able to have, the deck space to hold, because it's fundamentally different when you do a single pot fishery like it is today, and then a long line fishery where you need to haul all of the gear onto the vessel versus, pulling a pot, rebaiting, resetting. And so there's a safety concerns for small vessel, I think, would be first and foremost, and just how much gear that could be safe. So safety, I think, is probably one of the main concerns.
And those, is it safe to assume that those would be things you would be looking at in the trial time, in the testing time?
Absolutely.
Small vessels.
Yep.
How much? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we are helping with testing programs with I guess it's a grant that the Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission, fisherman Bob Kemp, who testified here today, has been involved in that. We're interested in testing out how longline gear, how quickly it can be turned over. I think it's less efficient than single pot fishing, and so we'd have to have that as part of this testing program that we're collaborating with Pacific States to understand how, that component of it, separate from pop-up, but just long lining in and of itself, which does reduce lines in the water, which is help reduce risks. So we have a lot to learn.
Thank you. That helps. Commissioner Spellbrink and then Commissioner Moldo.
Speakers,
please.
Thank you, Chair Wong. Just like to make some comments on the pop-up here. Do I think we ought to test it here in Oregon? Absolutely. Let's see if it works, but I just make comments on the success that was experienced in California. I have a hunch if you would ask for volunteers out here for 12 or 18 guys that could go fish somewhere when no one else was fishing, you'd probably see a lot of hands raised up right now. And that's kind of how that worked in California. And if you did the math, even though it was $1.4 million. And I can't remember the poundage, but I did the math on the poundage. I think it came out to 842 pounds per trip, something like that. It's because they had 229 trips divided into the amount of poundage. So it came up to 800 some pounds per trip, which for a good percentage of the guys representing out here, that would, hardly pay the fuel debate and the cost of running the operation. So anyway, just some things about the successful testing. But do I think we untested? Absolutely. I have another comment. That was just on the pop-up. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Chair Wall. Justin, the decision before the commission seems very binary. Either we accept the petition or we deny it. My question is kind of administrative. What are the implications of accepting the petition or denying the petition on the rulemaking process and the conservation plan? In other words, what happens?
Chair Wall, Commissioner Moldo. I think as Director Colbert mentioned when we started this, that accepting the petition will mean that it will initiate rulemaking. We already have initiating rulemaking for us is our planned rulemaking, which is in August to come back to you to talk about electronic vessel monitoring, requiring that in our commercial crab fleet. And then also this experimental permit that we're talking about for alternative gears, pop-up and longline gears. And so accepting or denying, we're still planning to bring those to you in August, in addition to a 5-year review of the risk reduction measures that I mentioned in my presentation. In terms of how that might affect or work towards the conservation plan, we're working on that actively, and we do have plans to complete the latest round of review that we got from NOAA Fisheries and get that submitted. And then that would start a new process towards review by NOAA Fisheries that is, unfortunately, does take a couple of years. So the take permit is still, on the, kind of far away on the horizon, but we're working actively towards it. So, but I don't know how accepting or denying today would really bring us any closer than if we didn't have this decision before you.
If I may add, again, I just want to be clear, when you ask the question accepting or denying, I have to keep adding the phrase, assuming that you mean that you support our current plan. If you were to accept this petition and give us direction that expanded what we planned, then I do think that would slow down our conservation plan efforts. Because there's a lot of stuff in the petition that would really take more time and be very difficult. And frankly, I think tries to make determinations of take that only the federal government can do. So I just want to be clear that if you accept the petition and you tell us to do something other than what we plan, I do think it will affect the planning process and the timeline.
Could you expand on that just a bit, Director, because it would be useful. When I understand from what you said is things like the zones aren't in your plan, right? That was not part of the plan, is looking at stopping fishing in certain zones if there was a take. But are there other things that you could let us know what that means in terms of doing what's already planned?
Not sure if I'm going to get this. I mean, I think I know what your question. I think you just asked me, can you speak to parts of the petition that are not included?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think a good example is the emergency closure language.
That's what I mean by the zones.
Okay,
Yes, yes.
cool. We're on the same page. Alrighty. Again, that's not envisioned in our 2026 rulemaking plan. And in fact, I think that's the conversation that we are needing to engage in with the conservation plan. And an incidental take would really be the trigger, right? Like you know. So just even that closure language kind of pre-guesses what the federal government's going to tell us in terms of an instill take. And so that's some of what I'm trying to signal to the commission, that those, if you ask us to include things like that, I think we're going to really struggle with that kind of direction.
And that's the one that's the primary one that you're thinking of when you.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a good example of, it's not in scope right now. And what you're hearing from me is I do not recommend that we pursue that at this time.
Do you have a follow-up question, Commissioner? And go ahead, Vice Chair, and then we'll go to you.
Okay, thank you. My question here is, you know, it's been a fun week to be a commissioner because we've read pages and pages and pages of testimony, which has been beautiful. And I'm very thankful for all the families that are here today. And I'm actually very thankful we are respectful to people that come for public testimony, because that's part of the freedom that we have in this country. So I appreciate all viewpoints that are in this room to listen to. But I would say that, you know, I feel like accepting this petition would not be satisfying to the people that brought the petition, because the way we're accepting it is actually just basically continuing to do what we're doing anyway. And so I really appreciate just thinking about the question I have is, how are we, with our current processes, how do we bring innovative or different ideas into our current process? I think we do. And I just want to have that confirmed, because I know I have talked to some of the conservation community on this issue a couple of years ago and really encouraged them on pop-up gear. Hey, guess how we do this? Somebody used the term relationship earlier. How we do this is we find one commissioner that we know. I happen to know Commissioner Spellbrink. He happens to be a crab fisherman. Hey, Bob, do you know any crab fishermen that might be interested in trying this because it's never been tried here? That's how I think we change the world. I don't think we change the world by just creating fear and uncertainty across entire communities. We change it by making an action and trying something. But back to my question, so I'm not just being a statement. Let's say I am the Center for Biological Diversity. How today, with our existing process that is moving as we speak and has been moving for 8 years, I think, talking about entanglement specifically, how would their concerns actually get into our existing current process?
Chair Wall, Vice Chair Hatfield Hyde, we do have an entanglement advisory committee. We do have representatives on that committee that are fishermen, that are members of conservation groups, including, you know, some of the members of that committee that are also signed the petition. Also on that advisory committee are scientists and fishery managers. And I think in that forum, in our advisory committees, especially this entanglement advisory committee, that we could work on those issues and have different viewpoints, and so that's one way. Also, you know, taking some guidance from this commission, we held this workshop I mentioned too about pop-up gear so we can learn more. And there was in a room, not as many people in this room, but there was a lot of people, 50+ people in the room from all of those different, you know, backgrounds, different representations that so we could talk about, you know, what works. We had fishermen from California saying, hey, this is working for me. And then we had fishermen from Oregon that, you know, initially were, you know, pretty skeptical, and maybe they came around and said, hey, maybe that could work. And then we had, you know, the manufacturers of the gear, and then also, those that are helping with the that kind of electronic applications that would help, facilitate pop-up gears and alternative gears together. So, the scientists, conservationists, fishery managers, and fishermen together, I think is where the solution lies.
Thank you. So you believe that, I mean, I think what creates the urgency around a petition like we've seen is that, for example, we saw a very public entanglement wash up on the beach. It was all over the press for days. The minute that happened, I knew something like this was going to happen, right? That we would be in a place like this today. I think that there's an urgency to take care the best we can to mitigate against something like that happening again, and happening 3 or 4 times a year for sure. But that, passionate urgency might overlook the actual reality of step-by-step process to get to a better place and get there with the community, and have the community have the back of trying to get there instead of feeling like they're, shoved up against the wall. So I'll stop. I'm in the deny camp, just so everyone knows, deny, but continue our rulemaking. Continue to ask our fishing community to be as innovative and open as you can. I heard Bob Eder's comments in here. I think, yeah, right on. You're not asleep, None of this is going away. How do we make the best out of it? How do we move through into a future for families? Yeah, ranch families, kind of like fishing families, except we don't take on the level of danger you guys do. Do Commissioners Bilbrin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wall. I'll kind of respond to that better than what I was going to say earlier, but what I've seen in the fisheries, all fisheries, is most of the innovation and advancement has come from these guys, from the fishermen, in the net fisheries. I mean, they've not only made fisheries cleaner, but made it easier on the fishermen. I mean, if there's an easier way, a better way to do things with less risk, these guys will find, they're good at it. I just think back of all the advancements just in the crab fishery, the time I was at, how we actually did things. From the time I began, when I quit, it was, we were doing things a lot easier, better, simpler, and catching more crabs, when I finished than when we started. Anyway, like I say, give these guys a chance, and if there's a way to make it better, they will. But where I was going, my other question was, talking about, I was going to switch to the importance of getting this conservation plan submitted, like yesterday. I mean, we all know. And I was reading through this Endangered Species Act, and on page 15 and under interagency cooperation, I'm guessing that this criteria, if we can get the conservation plan in and they're looking at it, this is one of the major criterias for them developing the incidental take permit. And that is, when I read down through it here, it says each federal agency shall, in consultation with and with the assistance of the secretary, ensure that any action authorized, funded, or carried out by such agency hereafter in this section referred to as the agency action. And this is the part that I want you to listen to. It says it's not likely to jeopardize the continued existence of any endangered species or threatened species. I mean, because it looks like on the surface, we meet that criteria. We meet that criteria now, as far as, I had a call in, I talked to some of the leadership of the Marine Mammal Institute, and, their response, the one response was said, this isn't how did they say it? It's not. Yeah, it's not a conservation issue is what they said. They said it's an individual welfare issue at this point, but it's not a conservation issue. The whale populations are healthy and increasing. So like I say, how do we, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, but is that probably the criteria, once we got the information in, that they would use to develop the incidental take permit?
Chair Wall, Commissioner Spilbring, I'm not exactly sure which sections of the ESA you were quoting there, whether or not that applies to the section 10 permit that we're shooting for. But there are many criteria that are being evaluated in the conservation plan and ultimately the issuance of the incidental take permit. So I don't think it's about, will this action impede the recovery? There's more to it than that. It's whether or not the measures that we're putting in place. So in our conservation plan, we outline the existing measures that we're putting in, and the measures being the current late season reduction, reducing the amount of lines in the water in the late season, and the depth restriction, and together with many other things, whether those conservation measures are, meet the maximum extent practicable that we can do for this fishery to meet that. So that's kind of the guidelines for how the conservation plan will be evaluated by NOAA. It's not necessarily whether this action will, impede or not the recovery of the species.
But it sounds like the process doesn't really get started though until we get the conservation plan submitted.
Well, yeah, I'd say it's already started because when we've been consulting with NOAA Fisheries for 7 years or so, and their guidance to us is that get these measures in place. And so we have rulemaking 2019, 2020, 2023, all of these measures, line marking, these late season measures. So we have all of these measures. So we've been simultaneously working on the conservation plan and implementing measures. And so, that's how we'll be evaluated rather than saying, well, here's what we plan to do. If we had submitted it 5 years ago when none of these measures were in place, that they would have said, all right, we'll come back when we actually have them in place. Now we do. And so the conservation plan is, as soon as we are, done with the iterative review and get that submitted later this year, we'll, then we'll start off a process that will be like a NEPA evaluation and other consultations. I hope that answers your question. Helps your.
Could I just stay on that topic for just a second on this, and this came up several times today and a lot of times in the written comments. We have the conservation plan that we need, and we have the incidental take permit that we need, and that'll change this conversation when we have those. And I had counted 5.5 or 6 years. You said 7 years that we've been in this process.
Yep.
What's going to change that this gets finished so that we actually have it? And I know the federal government can take a long time to review it too, but if we get it in, that'll start the clock at least. So what's different now that's going to get this moving so that we have this piece on a track?
In terms of how quickly we can complete the conservation?
So that the conservation plan and the incidental take permit application have a bow around them and they've gone to the federal government so that we can be asking for those things we complete them so that they will respond. And that changes this whole conversation once that happens.
It will, and we had goals to get the conservation plan submitted. Last year was difficult because of the federal shutdown and federal priorities. We had submitted a draft to review, and what I'm explaining is, we had goals to get it submitted, and we just got a draft back, and it took 8 months for NOAA Fisheries to get us a review. That being said, we're accelerating. We're working as quickly as we can. We have, we do have staff that are dedicated to this now, and permanent funding, which is great. And our hope is to get it submitted soon. We think there's at least a 2-year process even after we submit it, where there's more review, NEPA and Section 7 consultation. And then we're at that point where our incidental take permit would have some sideboards on it about take of protected whales. And we would have adaptive management plan in place so that, if we were approaching what the caps would be, and I don't know what that number might be, if it's X number of entanglements per year, and we were approaching that, we would have adaptive management that would, have to, it would be measures that would be, similar to our late season measures, but maybe we would have to be more restrictive, but not as blanket, like close the fishery. We would say, well, it appears that we need to, bring the fishery into shallower waters, or maybe, close it a little bit early in the season. So minimize those negative economic impacts. And that's what we mean by adaptive management. And that would be part of our conditions of our take permit.
And Chair Wall, if I could just kind of reiterate part of that as well. I mean, I think the answer here is we have been working actively to pursue this conservation plan, very active. We submitted a plan last year. They took a break, not a break, they got shut down during the government shutdown, couldn't review it. We just got that review back, what, like 2 or 3 weeks ago or a month ago? I mean, we just got it back. So we are aggressively gonna pursue their comments and get that turned in as fast as we possibly can and be very aggressive in pursuing that conservation plan and take permit.
So if I said it back to myself, what I think I just heard is what's different this year than the last several years is we submitted something, it came back, and we still are in the position of saying we hope it's finished by the end of this year, but at least we have a different.
I think what a lot of this is, I mean, we like we said, we started this several years ago. Government slowed down during COVID all of a sudden, then there's government shutdowns. And so we rely on our partners heavily to kind of a team process here to get this completed. And so we're still going to rely on them heavily to complete it. But it's not going to be because we aren't submitting it or we aren't working on it.
And I don't mean to suggest for a second that you're not working on it. I just want to know what's different from before so that we're not here a year and a half from now saying we hope it's in by the end of whatever that year is. So that's all. I was not implying that you weren't being aggressive about working on it. Okay, we have Dallas DeFreeze hand up and also Commissioner Morrison.
Yeah, I was going to point to Commissioner DeFreeze as well, but just a follow-up question on that. Not to beat a dead horse here, but this issue of needing to work with our partners and needing the help of NOAA Fisheries to get the conservation plan completed and the ITP approved. You mentioned, roughly a 2-year process. Is that the process as dictated by, like you said, the NEPA and the public comment process? That's what it would normally be? Or is that the process that might be a little more drawn out given the reduced staffing levels that we have at NOAA Fisheries right now? And if it's the latter, is there anything that we can do to help them with capacity and the ability to get something through quickly so that we can avoid this situation where we're still sitting here 2 years from now waiting because they don't have anybody to do the work?
Commissioner Morrison, it's just been our best estimation on that timeline. We're in a unique situation in that, California just recently did their formal submission just a couple months ago. And so we're kind of learning how that goes. And, there's what they heard back from NOAA is that there'll be at least 120 days before they, get that initial review. But and then we do know that there'll be some steps, like I mentioned, the NEPA evaluation and then Section 7 consultation. And based on what we've heard from NOAA fishery staff is that it could be 12 to 18 months beyond that. In terms of, and then I guess, just to elaborate a little bit more, what's been unique in this situation is this is, there hasn't been another case where I think a section, I think it's a Section 10 ESA, ITP for marine mammals. We're kind of in a unique situation, and we've had to work with NOAA Fisheries because this is not something that they can say, oh, we've done this before. This is kind of brand new. And, the only other similar situation is in California. And I guess to your second question about how the commission could help the process, we would love to have your assistance, but I don't have any suggestions there. But
fair enough.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
let's go to Commissioner Hall DeFreeze then, and then we'll have other questions from here.
Great, thank you. I definitely have some comments I'm gonna save for deliberation, and I don't want to backtrack too much on my question, but one thing that I did want to just touch on is what I'm understanding is, there's a lot of talk in the testimony today and in the written testimony that was sent in about best available science, for the petition saying these are the practices that we should implement because of best available science, but then hearing, that the science isn't there to really back this up within this specific fishery, meaning, we don't know what pop-up pots are going to do in some of these smaller fisheries. We don't know what some of these impacts are going to do in some of these smaller fisheries or specific fisheries on the Oregon coast. And that's what you're proposing will be brought forward in August, is that we do create science to help answer those questions. Okay, thank you.
Let's go to people beginning to form views and thoughts, points that you want to make before we make a decision. And I do have some, it looks like you have some. No, you go ahead first. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Wall. So thank you all for coming today. This is a very important discussion. So I'm going to take some time with my comments, so please bear with me. Some of you have driven many miles, and many of you have given up a day's work with us to be pretty much here all day. That is appreciated by this commission, I'm sure. We received over 350 pages of testimony, emails, letters. Most of you spoke today, summarized your written testimony that you provided us. Also appreciated. I want to thank Mike and Sean for meeting with me individually and answering all my questions. So first, what's this APA petition all about? In December of 2025, several conservation organizations submitted an APA petition, Administrative Procedures Act, petition asking this commission, in summary, to implement additional rules to strengthen additional existing entanglement risk reduction measures, creative pathways to authorize safer fishing gear, such as an Oregon waters test of pop-up gear, improve public reporting of whale and sea turtle entanglements. So what's the state of whale entanglements in Oregon? It's commercial Dungeness crab fishery. Since 2014, reported whale entanglements have increased across the West Coast. Most incidents involved humpback whales and fixed fishing gear, including Dungeness crab gear. Federal scientists have also documented an increase in entanglement linked to Oregon's commercial crab fishery. So what's causing this? Several factors. More whales. 2 peer-reviewed research papers have shown that the West Coast humpback whale population is growing at a rate of about 8% a year. NOAA uses a figure of 8.2%. The population in 2018 was estimated to be about 5,000 humpback whales. Today is approaching 8,000 plus if you use the 8% figure. I understand that there will be some updated numbers for Oregon and West Coast population numbers by the end of May, so we'll have better figures in May. Changing ocean conditions. Shifts in ocean conditions have moved whales closer to shore, overlapping between whales and crab fishing gear. Better reporting. Even though the one gentleman said we couldn't get his report in, there still has been, I guess, better reporting. And we need to probably improve that. Improved reporting and documentation means more entanglements are being recorded today than in the past. So what has the department done? ODF&W has been working with the crab industry and advisory groups that implemented multiple measures to reduce entanglement risk. In addition, in 2020, this commission adopted late season Oregon administrative rules that include reducing the amount of crab gear allowed in the water, requiring additional gear identification later in the season, restricting commercial crabbing gear in deeper offshore waters, requiring gear to be rigged in ways that reduce entanglement risks such as volunteers to test pop-up gear in Oregon waters. And implementation date for a late season measure was moved from May 1st to April 1st for this current season. By the end of the year, these actions require a focus on reducing overlap between whales and crab gear in both time and location. The department has also instituted measures for lost and abandoned crab gear, and it's not limited to the late season and was not part of the 2020 OARs. So what's planned for the future? We are currently developing an ESA conservation plan required under federal law for ESA protected whales, which include humpback whales. The latest draft of the plan is to be submitted to the National Marine Fisheries Service by the end of the year to get a Section 10 permit. The Section 10 permit is needed to obtain an incidental take permit, which allows the fishery to continue operating, minimizing impacts to protected whale species. The plan will use the best available science and practical solutions. So what's the Commission's 2026 work plan? It includes implementing additional OARs already being worked on by 1, reviewing how well the current entanglement reduction measures are working with advisory committees to consider additional tools such as piloting pop-up gear in Oregon waters and new fishing gear designed to reduce entanglement risk. Additional OARs are planned for August of 2026 regarding risk reduction measures, vessel monitoring, and pop-up long line experimental permit. Federal ESA conservation plan being developed as we speak, as staff has described, and which will describe existing regulations, OARs, and submission is necessary to obtain that incidental take permit. Additional rulemaking will likely happen after the ESA plan is approved by the Commission and NOAA later this year. So bottom line, we are and will continue to actively reduce whale entanglements through science-based measures, collaboration with fishermen, and compliance with federal law, while supporting a sustainable Dungeness crab fishery. So what decision is before this commission today? I've been in this commission for almost 7 years, and I've seen several APA petitions come before us. By state law, the Oregon Fish and Wildlife Commission must decide whether to initiate rulemaking process or deny the petition based on 6 criteria for review of an APA petition. And Annika will quote me on that, I'm sure. The key word here is to initiate, not adopt. No rule changes can or will be adopted at this meeting. The staff recommendation has recommended that the commission accept the petition and direct the department to continue its current track of developing an ESA conservation plan, incidental take permit, and rulemaking for ESA protected whales. Staff indicates that all interested parties can and will be encouraged to continue to be involved in the ESA process in continued coordination with NOAA, National Marine Fisheries Service, to obtain an endangered species coverage and an incidental take permit. I believe we can either accept the petition or deny accept the petition or deny the petition. And either way, in my opinion, it doesn't change what the department is already doing. As I mentioned above, we are already doing what our ESA process and rulemaking is continuing to do, which is proceed in a comprehensive and coordinated manner. The approach we are currently doing, i.e. the conservation plan, ITP, and OARs, maintains progress toward conservation objectives while ensuring that regulatory changes are informed by the best available science, stakeholder input, and federal requirements, and will clearly consider potential economic impacts to the crab fishery. I will close my comments by encouraging the department to move the ESA conservation plan forward with greater urgency than they are currently doing and submit it to NOAA sooner than later. I share Bob Kent's concern from Oregon Sea Grant that petitioners have not sufficiently addressed the 6 required decision criteria. What do I mean by greater urgency? I hear staff saying that they are proceeding with great urgency, but I need to reflect on that. This commission received the initial draft conservation plan in September of 2021, 5 years ago. We are now nearly 5 years into this effort. While I appreciate the work that has gone into the process, 5 years is a significant amount of time for all involved, for stakeholders, the industry, conservation partners, and the public who are seeking clarity and certainty. If we had an ESA conservation plan, section 10, incidental take permit by now, it is likely, in my opinion, that we would not even be having this discussion today regarding an APA petition, because we would have had a federally approved conservation plan with an incidental take permit and any OARs that go with it. My understanding is that our submission is now anticipated by the end of the year. I urge the department to prioritize completion and forward the plan to NOAA so that we may receive their approval sooner than later. It would be far more productive, in my opinion, to have NOAA review a full plan rather than the current process of submitting pieces and getting NIMS advice on what modifications, if necessary, are necessary to secure the incidental take permit. With that feedback in hand, the commission can thoroughly consider and adopt any additional OARs, Oregon administrative rules, that may be required after approval of the conservation plan. Moving the plan to NOAA promptly will provide direction, reduce uncertainty, and demonstrate our shared commitment for a timely and responsible conservation action that our stakeholders have been asking for. And I also, I think I'm in the same boat as Commissioner Hatfield-Hyde. I think it would be better if we deny the petition.
Chair Wall, are we, if I can add a comment, if we're deliberating now? Okay, great.
And I will.
If I would have known we were moving into deliberation, I would have just packed my two comments together, but here we are. So I wanted to add that, you know, I really truly believe that conservation, long-lasting, meaningful conservation cannot happen in isolation. And I think that was proved out in the public testimony that we received written and all of the full room of the people who are here today testifying. It impacts more than we know when we're making decisions. And to me, this petition came forward and it felt like trying to do conservation in isolation. I feel like the work that the department is doing in their approach to rulemaking in August is not doing conservation in isolation, is taking into account all of the interest groups, the voices here today. And I want to applaud and and express my gratitude for the department taking that approach, because I really think that is how we make change. And, I think we can start by saying that everybody virtually in the room, but also physically in the room, has the common goal that we don't want to see any more whale entanglements, right? Like, we can all be happy about that. We agree on this thing. So let's figure out a way that we can work together respectfully to make that change in a way that is sustainable for the communities, the people, the individuals. Like, let's not sit on our feet. Let's challenge ourselves. But I really think that we can come together and be stronger doing that. And I think that that's how true conservation and change works. And I think from the testimony that I've heard and read, the fishery has already done a lot of that work and is eager to continue to do that work. And so I just really want to say I respect you all for doing that. And I know what that means. It's a lot. So I guess I also just wanted to say that, like Commissioner Hatfield-Hyde and Commissioner Labhart, I think my decision would also be to deny the petition.
I'll go next because I have a little bit different take on it than some of the other commissioners. When I look at this, I think we owe an incredible amount to for the conservation and headway that we've made over the last few years to three groups. One is, and probably others, but when I look at it, the industry for the work and expense and time to identify and implement risk reductions. I think that the second group that I look at is the people working for years to advocate for and find ways to reduce and protect our marine resources, both animal and habitat. And I'm from a ranch family, and we think we're the best conservationists on the planet. But I do know that the second group, the advocates, have a huge role to play, and I recognize that that's a different view than a lot of people in the room have. But I think that part of the reason we are where we are right now is that both of those groups have been involved in these conversations, and the collaboration has to be built with both of those groups, not just us with one of those two groups. So I think it's really important that we recognize the role that those advocacy groups play and in the headway that we have made. And the third group that I think has done remarkable work is ODF&W. I've worked on this for years. We've been talking about this almost since I was on the commission. And I think I'm the oldest one on here in terms of time. So I came into this looking at, we've been making headway, but we've been making headway because of those three groups. And so I came into it thinking, agreeing with the department that we should accept the petition because it keeps everything on the table. It supports the robust work that's happened so far that's gotten us where we are, and the solutions have to be collaborative. And so I worry about pushing some of the constituents to the sideline. The third piece of this for me is that those collaborative solutions all are there because they recognize the urgency of acting in light of the climate change impacts that are coming at us and the daunting ocean conditions that we're all dealing with. And I think that we need to recognize the urgency of course, finishing the conservation plan and the ITP, and reducing the risk of entanglements. That's what we're actually dealing with. And it did push things into the everybody's vision when the whale washed up on the shore. But we also have been hearing from the department, we've had increasing entanglements and we need to do something about it. So I think those are all important. And so I look at it and I don't disagree that it's not going to change what we do going forward into August, whether we accept or deny, but accepting says we want the whole robust analysis and the whole conversation on the table moving forward. So that would be where I would end up. Looks like we have Commissioner Morrison next.
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to express what other folks have said about how grateful I am to everyone who's come here today to provide public comment and everybody who spent time in submitting the written comments. And I certainly have been accused of being toxically positive in the past, but with a positive viewpoint, as I read through all of those, I mean, to me, I see a tremendous amount of common interest from both sides of this issue, a lot of common ground, or maybe in this circumstance, a lot of common water. I don't think anybody that is involved in this conversation wants to see a dead whale. And they certainly don't want to see a dead whale that's dead because it was entangled in crab fishing here. Nobody wants to see that. But I also believe that I think everybody who's involved in this wants vibrant coastal communities. They want healthy economic activity along the coast. I do believe that. I think that's really true. And I think everybody recognizes, we've heard it a lot today, that there are some common things that we can agree we want to see dealt with. Many people have mentioned the impact of derelict gear. I think we can all agree that's something that we can work together to try and address. I think there's a fair amount of agreement that, sure, let's test out, let's pilot some of these other gear options, this pop-up gear, see if it works. So there's a lot that there's agreement on. And I certainly hope that as we see these proposed regulations later this year, those kinds of things are baked in. Because again, we can see a lot of common agreement here. And I also think that it will really strengthen the conservation plan and the ultimate ITP that we're looking for. So I think there's a lot of agreement. I am a little concerned about accepting the petition if that really doesn't mean anything, right? If it doesn't change what we are going to do. I agree with you, Chair Wall. We want everybody at the table. That's where the best solutions come forward, where we have the opportunity to hear from a lot of different folks, certainly those who are engaged in that work every day, but those who have been studying it from other angles for a very long time. So I think we want everybody to be at the table. And if it feels like a disingenuous acceptance, I'm a little concerned about how that will be received. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say at this point which way I'm leaning or not.
Fine.
But I'm leaning towards the denial.
Yeah, I just want to weigh in again to be really clear, and to kind of follow up on what Chair Wall is trying to say, and this is a question back to the department, or maybe back to the director. When I read the petition, the accept or deny, the accept says, accept the petition and direct the department to initiate rulemaking consistent with its planned rulemaking processes and engagement with NOAA fisheries to obtain ESA coverage. I really feel like we can flip that language on its head and say the exact same thing. Deny the petition and continue to initiate rulemaking consistent with its planned rulemaking processes and engagement with NOAA fisheries to obtain ESA coverage. What I want to make sure of, because I mean, this isn't as much as we'd like it to be, a popularity contest. We're supposed to govern, take care of whales, take care of communities. Are people included in that process? Because what Chair Wall just said is if we accept it, other people will be more included. But I think everyone should be included already. And if they're not included in a fair democratic process, then let's make sure that they are, right? What do you say?
Again, yes, we believe that the processes that we've been using have been trying to kind of be inclusive through the use of our entanglement committee, the collaboration with the fleet. So, and even as we move into this next round of rulemaking, it's our intent to use those same structures to generate the best ideas to bring forward.
Okay, good. And that's what you guys think too. Open door. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Wall. As I've been listening to comments today, well, first of all, I'm very much aligned with Chair Wall and Commissioner Lephart's comments from a few minutes ago. As I was listening to comments and reading the petition, I was thinking to myself, how does the petition add to our process? How is it benefiting our conservation plan? How does this help us move forward with the objective of a implementable conservation plan with buy-in from the community? And I just don't see it. So as Commissioner Hatfield-Hyde said just a second ago, I wish there was another clause here because I'm assuming rulemaking will go forward. We have to work with urgency. It makes me very upset to hear that this was started in 2021 and it's 2026. And I'm trusting that this is going to advance and we'll have this done this year. We can't have what happened this last fall happen again. It's probably going to happen again. I think it is, but we need to work diligently with urgency to complete the conservation plan. So I'm leaning towards denial as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wall. Just really just a ending comment or a quick comment for me anyway. And that is, when I talked to the Marine Mammal Institute the other day, they mentioned that the large whale entanglement issue was an individual welfare issue and not a conservation issue. It kind of rang a bell. And I was thinking, I think we have these guys out here have a lot in common with the whales. I called Amanda Gladys at the OSU Extension Service, who's the commercial fisheries specialist. And she sent me this on commercial fishing safety on the West Coast. And like I say, it turns out we might have a individual welfare issue also. Statistics tell us that for the 20-year period ending in 2019, 141 fishing industry workers died in marine accidents on the West Coast. 44 or 31% of those were fishing Dungeness crab. And so I'm thinking, okay, so how do we deal with that? How have we dealt with that? We've dealt with that here at the commission. We've brought up safety issues like getting crab here in the water safely. And in the past, we've done a lot of things. We've made, mandatory survival suits, life rafts, e-curves, Coast Guard inspections, all these things that, to hopefully make things safer. But do we get rid of risk? We never get rid of risk entirely. We do whatever we can to minimize risk. And we try to reduce risk without destroying the economics of the fishery. And I think that's what our goal should be here too.
Thank you, Chair. Well, so I gave the director a little bit of a heads up so she could be thinking about this, but I was going to ask the director if she would like to weigh in with any opinion, and particularly I'm more interested in the department's 2026 plan and what, because I think if we just continue with the plan we're already on, both sides are going to be, I don't know if they're both going to be happy, but they're both going to be saying, yeah, that's what they're doing. So do you have an opinion on that, Director?
Commissioner Lamhart, what was the question?
I'd like your opinion. Sorry. I'd like your opinion on, if you have an opinion on, you can give an opinion on the APA petition, but the importance of this, I think, is we've already got a plan in place. It's a 2026 plan, which I tried to identify what's in there, which includes what we're talking about today. Conservation plan, Section 10 permit, incidental take, OARs, and all of the additional stuff that we've already identified for protecting whales and providing for a viable crab fishing industry. Do you have an opinion on that from the department standpoint?
Well, I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but I think that the course that we've laid out for 2026 is the best way to move forward. That includes all the different perspectives like we've done in the past, and tries to kind of, I think that I hear what folks are saying about the worry about urgency. I actually feel like we have been moving at a pretty impressive pace. I mean, every time you've adopted rules, you could add up the number of hours that people have devoted, and those were all hard decisions and hard things to get resolved. And so while it has taken time, it has borne a lot of fruit, and it's been done as part of a collaborative process with these groups. So I'm a broken record. I think we have a good plan for 2026. From the outset, I admitted that when you're initiating rulemaking and you get an APA telling you to initiate rulemaking, it hurts my head to think about what that really means in terms of deny or accept. But again, I think either way you go, as long as, what I would, look for is the support to continue the plan that we have for 2026.
Go ahead. Well, I'm prepared to make a motion. And I'm perfectly happy to have a friendly amendment if we need to wordsmith it a little bit. What I would do is just simply deny the petition and urge the department to continue its planned rulemaking processes and engagement with NOAA fisheries to obtain ESA coverage.
In an urgent manner.
Well, I said urge. Urge the department to be urgent. In an urgent manner.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine. We catch it?
I'll second the motion.
And read that. I can- Oh, yeah. Don't forget to. In an urgent manner. Might skip that one.
I think I have it. Okay. Yep. Got it. It's been moved and seconded to deny the petition and urge the department to continue its planned rulemaking process and engagement with NOAA fisheries to obtain ESA coverage. Any other discussion or questions?
Sorry, just to clarify that the continue with this rulemaking process and proceed with the ESA cut, is there? an
It's
and in there?
basically flipping the actual
Okay.
amendment that we already, on its head. So if you look at option 1 in your packet, basically it's on page 10. All I'm doing is saying deny the petition and urge the department to continue its planned rulemaking processes and engagement with NOAA fisheries to obtain ESA coverage.
Everybody understand the motion then? Discussion?
Still second.
Yeah. You were just clarifying that you're still the second.
Yeah, but that clarification.
Thank you. Michelle, will you call the roll, please?
Alder Freeze,
Aye.
Vidal,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Spellbrink,
Aye.
Laphart,
Aye.
Hatfield Hyde,
Aye.
Wall.
No. Motion passes, and thank you, everyone. Adjourned. Okay.
I just want to say.
Is that adjournment?
What you guys do. Adjourn?
Thank you.
Sure.